This haunting footage captures the final moments of 21-year-old Grace Millane before she was brutally murdered by a man she thought she could trust. At first, Grace and Jesse seemed to be having a genuinely fun night together. He was charming, attentive, and gave every impression he liked her back. Grace even texted a friend that they clicked. But behind that facade, Jesse was a twisted predator, waiting for the right moment to strike. During questioning, he spun lie after lie, but CCTV footage across the city soon laid bare the truth.
It's possible that somebody has killed her, okay? You understand that?
Yeah.
She might, when I say foul play, I mean that someone might have murdered her.
This case is as disturbing as it is heartbreaking, so let's go back to where it all began. Grace Emmy Rose Millane was born on December 2nd, 1996 in Essex, UK. She was the youngest and the only girl in her family with two older brothers, Michael and Declan. Her family described her as vibrant, energetic, and outgoing young woman who was passionate about music and hockey. But even as a kid, Grace wanted something bigger. She had an adventurous spirit and dreamed of traveling to far-off places. After finishing high school, she attended the University of Lincoln, where she got her degree in advertising and marketing. Still, despite her degree, Grace's desire to explore the world wouldn't go away. So instead of diving into a career, she decided to take a gap year to live life on her own terms. By September 2018, Grace could hardly wait for her trip. She was counting down the days on social media, building up excitement. In late September, she tweeted, "Less than a month and counting." She planned to start her journey in October 2018, and before she left, she even cut off her long brown hair to donate it to the Little Princess Trust, a charity that makes wigs for kids who've lost their hair from cancer. Her adventure started in South America, where she soaked in the culture and the beauty of Peru, sharing snapshots of cute llamas and stunning landscapes. Her photos captured pure joy. But looking back, it all feels like a calm before the storm. After 6 weeks in South America, Grace moved on to New Zealand. She arrived on November 20th, planning to spend 2 weeks exploring the North Island. She visited spots like Cape Regina and walked along the bays of islands, and eventually made her way to Auckland. There, she met other travelers and enjoyed the city's vibrant vibe. She was living her dream. But tragically, just 2 days after she arrived in Auckland on November 30th, Grace's story would take a dark and heartbreaking turn. On December 1st, just hours before her 22nd birthday, Grace went to meet up with a guy she had matched with on Tinder. They had agreed to meet at the base of the Sky Tower, which is one of the most obvious landmarks in the city that can be seen from miles away. She got there at around 5:45 p.m. and was captured on CCTV taking pictures on her phone of a Christmas tree to send to her family. The man showed up shortly after, and after an awkward hug and shy smiles, they headed to a nearby burger bar for dinner. Surveillance footage of their interaction showed them chatting and getting along well, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was at this next spot that things seemed to really click between them. They were seen kissing and touching, clearly getting comfortable with each other. Grace seemed especially into him, talking animatedly, smiling constantly. At one point, while the mystery man stepped away for a few minutes, Grace took the chance to text a friend back home, excitedly sharing how the date was going, writing, "I clicked so well with him. I'll let you know what happens tomorrow." Tragically, those would be some of her last words. After sending the message, the guy returned to the table, and they continued their evening, kissing and drinking together until around 9:40 p.m. Then they were seen leaving the bar, heading toward the City Life Hotel, where the guy had booked a room. Walking close, his arm around her shoulders, they looked happy, comfortable, even carefree. They entered the elevator heading up to room 308 on the 3rd floor. Security footage caught the man fumbling with the key card before they disappeared behind the door around 10 p.m. And from that moment on, Grace was never seen alive again. The next morning was a Sunday, and Grace's family and friends started to worry when she didn't answer their calls or respond to birthday messages. Their concerns grew as the hours passed, with still no word from her. Since she started her backpacking trip, Grace had stayed in close contact with her family, always keeping them updated with texts, Facebook posts, and Instagrams about her travels. So it felt strange for her to suddenly go quiet. Her family tried to reassure themselves that maybe Grace was just busy or in a place with bad reception. But after 2 days of complete silence, they reached out to the Auckland police and reported her missing. The police started their investigation right away, first contacting the hostel where Grace was staying, and the staff confirmed she hadn't come back after her date on December 1st. At first, police didn't think anything bad had happened. Most of her belongings were still there, so they assumed maybe she'd spent the night with new friends and just hadn't updated her family. But that theory was quickly dismissed. As they reviewed CCTV footage around the city, they tracked Grace's last movements, showing her with the man she'd been seen with that night. Then, an interesting detail came up. Just before she went missing, Grace had changed her Facebook profile picture, and at around 9:29 p.m., a comment appeared on it. Beautiful, very radiant. People were able to recognize the commenter as the same man caught on camera with Grace that night. This man was 26-year-old Jesse Kempson. Born in New Zealand's Wellington region, Jesse had a pretty unstable childhood, moving around a lot after his parents split up. He spent part of his life raised by his grandparents and was mostly estranged from much of his family. People who knew Jesse described him as a compulsive liar. He told wild stories like claiming to be related to a famous All Blacks rugby player, or even saying he was terminally ill with cancer. Jesse lied to just about everyone: employers, landlords, partners, even his own family and friends. But his stories often caught up with him, leading to constant job losses and evictions. The night he met Grace, he'd actually posted a long message on Facebook apologizing for his past mistakes, his arrogance, and his selfishness, promising he was going to turn things around and be a better person. Because Jesse was the last person seen with Grace, police believed he might have crucial information about that night. So on December 5th, the same day Grace was reported missing, they brought him in for questioning.
We're very, very concerned for her safety, obviously. It's entirely possible that she's been the victim of foul play.
Okay.
You understand what that means?
Yeah.
What would your feelings be about providing us with a voluntary DNA sample in the event that we can compare that against something? Would you be happy
Yeah,
with
100%. I mean, I know I haven't done anything wrong, so I'm happy to do it.
that? Okay. At this stage, we don't know what's happened to this girl.
Okay.
It's possible that somebody has killed her. Okay?
He insisted he had no clue what happened to Grace, saying that after their date ended around 10 p.m., they kissed goodbye and went their separate ways. He added that he even tried to message her the next day on Tinder, but saw that she had unmatched him, which he claimed was the last he'd heard from her. However, as the police went through more CCTV footage, a much different and disturbing story began to unfold. Despite Jesse's claim that he and Grace went their separate ways after the date, the footage showed them walking together into his hotel room, where Grace was never seen coming out. The next morning, Jesse was caught on camera leaving alone. He went to a nearby store to buy a large suitcase, which he brought back to his hotel. Then he headed out again to pick up cleaning supplies, and even rented a carpet cleaner, which he took up to his room, casually standing next to another guest in the elevator. But Jesse didn't stop there. Later, CCTV footage caught him taking a cab to a car rental office where he picked up a red Corolla and drove it back to the City Life Hotel. Then things took an even stranger turn. That same afternoon, Jesse went on another Tinder date. But this time something felt off. He seemed nervous, dropping random contradictory details about himself. He told the woman that all of his friends were cops, and even said his best friend was moving to New Zealand to become a crown prosecutor. He went even further, saying he'd heard about a guy who accidentally killed his girlfriend during rough, intimate moments. The date quickly became uncomfortable, and when Jesse invited her to go somewhere else, her instincts told her to leave. She didn't know it then, but trusting that feeling might have saved her life. Around 5:45 p.m., Jesse came back to his hotel, parked his rental car, and grabbed a trolley from the front desk. He then went up to his room and came back with the trolley, now loaded with 2 large suitcases, including the one he had bought earlier. He put the suitcases in the trunk and moved the car to a nearby parking lot before heading back inside the hotel. But that wasn't the end of Jesse's strange behavior. The next morning, around 6:15 a.m., he left the hotel again, got into his rental car, and drove off. He stopped at a store on the outskirts of town and bought a shovel. And then a few hours later, he was spotted at a car wash, cleaning the car he'd rented just the day before. On December 5th, the day Grace was reported missing, Jesse was seen going to various places and dumping some items into trash bins. After seeing all this footage, investigators started to fear the worst. Meanwhile, Grace's family was still clinging to the hope that she would be found alive. Her dad, who had come to Auckland, held a press conference, pleading for the public's help in finding her.
She arrived here on the 20th of November and has been bombarding us with numerous photographs and messages of her adventures. We are all extremely upset, and it is very difficult at this time to fully describe the range of emotions we are going through. While we are very grateful for the media coverage both here and back home, we are finding this situation quite upsetting, and would sincerely hope that the media continue to respect our privacy. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to appeal to anybody who has seen, spoken to, or come into contact with Grace over the last few days, and to come forward with any detail, no matter how small, and contact the investigation team.
The following day, December 6th, Jesse was brought in for questioning again. This time, faced with all the evidence, he finally confessed to taking her life. However, he claimed it happened by accident during a moment of passion.
Speak to us about the events of last Saturday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me what happened last Saturday.
She started talking to me about 50 Shades of Grey. We started having sex. At first it was just normal. And then she asked me if we could get into bondage, having, I guess, more violent sex. We ended up on the floor, and then she told me to hold her throat. So I went into the shower, and then all I remember is falling asleep in the shower. I need to stop. I need to go.
Jesse claimed that when he woke up the next morning and saw Grace was dead, he was in shock and didn't know what to do. But instead of getting help or coming clean, he made the horrifying decision of getting rid of her body.
I didn't know what to do. I went downstairs and I was just, I don't know, I was all over the place.
We're going to head out of here very, very soon, and you're going to take us to where you've buried her.
Yeah.
She will likely be exhumed tomorrow.
Okay.
At some point, and after that a pathologist, a specialist doctor, will perform a post-mortem.
Despite Jesse's attempts to clean up the crime scene, Grace's DNA was found all over the hotel room, revealing the terrifying events that unfolded on what was supposed to be her birthday.
The investigation into the disappearance of Grace Mullane has developed this evening. Just after 3 p.m. this afternoon, a 26-year-old man was located at a central Auckland address by police. He was brought back here to the Auckland Central Police Station and is currently speaking to us in relation to the murder of Grace Mullane. Sadly, the evidence we have gathered to this point of the inquiry has established that this is a homicide. Grace's family have been advised of this development and they are devastated.
After his confession, the police searched the Wakatare Range, a remote area around 12 miles west of Auckland, and that's where they discovered Grace's body, inside a suitcase, buried in a shallow grave.
I can now advise that a short time ago, we located a body which we believe to be Grace. The formal identification process will now take place. However, based on the evidence we have gathered over the past few days, we expect that this is Grace. Obviously, this brings the search for Grace to an end. It is an unbearable time for the Mullane family, and our hearts go out to them.
For the first 2 years of the case, Jesse's name was not shared in the New Zealand media due to a suppression order. This explains why, in much of the footage from this case, his face is blurred out. However, the name suppression was later lifted, making his identity well known. Despite having confessed, Jesse pleaded not guilty to the charge of murder, insisting it had all been an accident and he had not intended to end her life. However, during his trial, the prosecutor presented a strong case, showing CCTV footage of Jesse's movements after the crime. They argued that his behavior didn't match someone who had accidentally caused harm, but rather a cold-blooded killer. The jury also heard chilling details about what Jesse was doing while Grace lay dead in his room. At around 1:30 a.m., he searched disturbing things on his phone like hottest fire and Wakatere ranges, the exact place where he would later dump her body. But that wasn't the worst of it. Jesse also reportedly visited an adult site and watched videos while Grace's lifeless body was still in the room. And it gets even worse. He allegedly took intimate photos of her lifeless body, even going so far as to manipulate her to get the shots he wanted. How messed up is that? But wait, there's more. The next morning, while he was out buying a suitcase and cleaning supplies, he was texting the woman he was going on a date with later that evening. This reality shows how little he cared about what he had just done. He wasn't bothered by taking someone's life, he just wanted to go on like nothing happened.
There were also some other general staining, including some possible footprints. So in my opinion, the shape of the probable blood staining and the presence of blood and other residues in the underlay and the floor provide strong support for the proposition that cleanup of blood had occurred in this area.
And it gets worse. The pathologist also described the injuries he found on Grace's body, including her arms, torso, and neck, which suggested she had been pinned down and asphyxiated.
There has been sufficient pressure in that place for a sufficient period of time and for sufficient force for that bruising to occur. The bruising wouldn't occur, I don't think, with a sort of a gentle pressure on the neck. It has to be something a bit more forceful than that.
But here's where things get even crazier. Apparently, Grace was not Jesse's first victim. He had apparently been targeting women on Tinder to have rough encounters with. One of these women was another British tourist he met about 8 months before Grace. He had brought her back to his motel room and forced himself on her while she lay on the bed, terrified and frozen. She kept quiet about the assault until she saw his face on the news when he was charged with Grace's murder. She later told the jury that for a long time she'd woken up crying and screaming with flashbacks and nightmares, terrified that her attacker would track her down. Another woman Jesse messaged online, who was hesitant to meet him in person, shared a string of messages where he describes his preferences. In these conversations, he reportedly admitted why he liked doing what he did, saying it made him feel more superior and in control. According to the prosecution, this desire for domination is what ultimately led to Grace's death. After a 3-week trial and 5 hours of jury deliberation, Jesse was found guilty of Grace's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for at least 17 years.
Grace was taken away from us in the most brutal fashion a year ago, and our lives and family have been ripped apart. This will be with us for the rest of our lives. Grace was a beautiful, talented, loving daughter. Grace was our sunshine, and she will be missed forever.
To add to the heartbreak, Grace's dad, David, was diagnosed with cancer shortly after the trial. He fought it for about a year but sadly passed away in November 2020, almost 2 years after losing his daughter. So what are your thoughts on this case? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this story chilling, just wait. The next video will leave you speechless.
So everyone's in the same place before we're going to further. This is an unwitnessed arrest with multiple significant samples. The rigor mortis flawed. I think it should be on the help. I don't think we should go any further.
A deranged man viciously murdered his online girlfriend after she flew halfway around the world just to be with him. Ashley Wadsworth and Jack Seppel had been chatting online for over 8 years. Ashley believed that she had found her soulmate, and despite her family's worries, she traveled from Canada to the UK to be with him.
My plane got TV, blanket, pillow, water, space, and it's huge.
But Jack wasn't the man he pretended to be. And when she figured that out, she sent a frantic message to her friends saying, "I need your help. It's an emergency, please." Tragically, by the time her friends saw her plea, it was already too late.
When those officers went through that door, they would have immediately seen into the bedroom Jack Seppel on the bed with Ashley laying next to him. And there was a large quantity of blood in that bedroom. It was a truly gruesome scene.
The details in this case are truly chilling and will leave you questioning how well you know the person you're chatting with. Could they be hiding something deadly? But first, let's look at Ashley's story.
Ready? There's no way I'm sending this.
Born in July 2002, Ashley Ann Wadsworth was a beautiful, outgoing, and adventurous young woman from Vernon, British Columbia. She was the younger of two sisters and was raised by her parents, Ken and Christy, who, even after parting ways, were able to put their differences aside and provide a stable environment for their daughters. Growing up, Ashley lived with her mother and older sister, Haley. She was a happy young girl who loved horse riding, skiing, and boating. And like most girls her age, she was also super into social media and would make cute, funny videos with her friends and family. Ashley was also passionate about traveling and dreamed of exploring cities and countries beyond her hometown, especially the UK. But this dream didn't come out of nowhere. When Ashley was about 12 years old, a friend introduced her to an English boy she met online named Jack Seppel. Jack was 16 and lived halfway across the world, which only fueled Ashley's curiosity and her desire to experience life abroad. While Ashley was outgoing and full of life, Jack was more reserved, spending most of his time on video games and social media. Their 3.5-year age difference didn't seem like a big deal then, since they were only online friends. They chatted on and off for several years, with their bond growing deeper each time. However, their relationship didn't become serious until Ashley turned 16 in 2018. They started talking every day, with Jack even sending her random gifts from England, such as clothes, jewelry, teddy bears, a purse, and sometimes even money. At first, Ashley's mom was a bit cautious about this growing relationship, worried that someone else might be behind the photos of the teenager. But her worries eased once Ashley and Jack started FaceTiming in the family living room. She'd even say hi to Jack now and then as she passed by. Jack came across as a respectful, decent guy, and the whole family really liked him. Despite having never met him in person, his face and his name were a regular part of the Wadsworth household.
He presented himself pretty well to my mother and I.
Like if she was talking to him, I'd be like, "Oh, hi, Jack," and I'd ask him about England and loved his accent.
Ashley was so head over heels for Jack that all she wanted was to be with him. She even asked her mom if she could go to England to visit him, but of course her mom said no way. I mean, who is letting their 16-year-old fly across the world to meet a guy they've only talked to online? But like any love-struck teenager, Ashley didn't see it as her mom looking out for her safety. In her mind, Jack was her one true love, and her mom was just keeping her from being happy. So she made up her mind to wait until she turned 18, and then her parents wouldn't be able to say no. That's exactly what happened, and unfortunately there was nothing her family could do to stop her from taking steps that would cost her her life. Now, although Jack tried to present himself as the perfect gentleman online, his true colors would sometimes slip out. He got super jealous of Ashley, often accusing her of cheating with one of her friends in Vernon. Their arguments would get so intense that Ashley would sometimes block him to stop him from calling or texting. But that didn't stop him for long. Jack would create new social media accounts to reach her or even contact her sister and friends, knowing they'd pass the message to Ashley. Some of her friends thought Jack was obsessed, but Ashley always defended him, saying he was just passionate. So passionate that he even got her name tattooed on his arm as a sign of his undying love. But here's the twist. While Jack couldn't stand the idea of Ashley even talking to other guys, he was openly dating other girls the whole time. And get this, some of the girls actually reached out to Ashley because she apparently was the favorite. And it gets crazier. One of these girls once called Ashley saying Jack had locked her in his house and wouldn't let her leave. She was begging Ashley to talk to him and calm him down so she could escape. What a sicko. This should have been a major red flag for Ashley, but being young and naive, she didn't see it. Plus, Jack was a smooth talker. Every time Ashley tried to break things off, he'd apologize, insisting that she was the only girl that he loved. By 18, Ashley had been accepted into college and was becoming quite religious as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She was also working part-time at Burger King to save money for her trip to the UK. And by November 2021, Ashley had everything ready: her 6-month visa, a plane ticket, and her heart set on meeting the love of her life. Her family, though skeptical, tried to be supportive. Her mom, Christy, even spoke with Jack, asking him to look out for her daughter, to which he replied he'd guard her with his life. On November 12th, 2021, Ashley said her final goodbyes to her family, and her dad drove her to the airport. Her parents were, of course, worried about her, but there was nothing left that they could do to stop her or change her mind. Her mom tried to reassure herself, thinking the worst that could happen is she'll go, they won't work out, and she'll come back home. Little did she know Ashley would never return to her, at least not alive.
My plane. I've got TV, blanket, pillow, water, space, and it's huge.
After a 10-hour flight, Ashley and Jack finally met in person, and it was a thrilling moment for both of them. Ashley moved into Jack's apartment in Northwest Chelmsford, and over the next few days, her friends and family saw her posting happy photos of her and Jack exploring places in Essex and London. In one post on January 11th, 2022, she wrote, "All the photos, more coming, of my amazing trip to London with Jack and his parents for his birthday. So thankful for them." The couple looked so happy together that Ashley's family started to think maybe their worries had been for nothing. Ashley couldn't stop gushing about Jack to her family, saying she was everything she dreamed of: kind, thoughtful, caring.
The next day, I'm like, "How was your first night? Like, so what'd you get?" And she's like, "I fell asleep and he picked me up and carried me and put me to bed." And yeah, so I thought, "Aw." And she's like, "He's so kind and we have such a good connection." It's, yeah. So she was really happy.
But this was only a facade. Ashley was about to really find out who her boyfriend was.
Oh, my temper coming back. This thing in my leg. I'm gonna It's fucking heavy. My fucking lip. It's fucking driving me crazy. I'm so fucking ill.
Yeah, Jack was definitely not a good guy. He had a history of violence, control issues, and a hot temper. By the age of 23, he had already racked up 8 criminal convictions for things like online harassment, assault, and violating restraining orders, most of them involving ex-girlfriends. 2 of his exes had even got restraining orders to keep him away. In one incident where he was 15, he met a girl online and took compromising pictures of her without her permission. When she broke up with him, he got revenge by posting the photos on social media for all to see. She filed a restraining order and blocked him, but just like he would later do with Ashley, he tried to contact her through her friends. He even sent her a creepy message saying, "You are never going to get rid of me. Even if I have to go to prison over you, I'll see you soon and I will turn up wherever you live." For this, Jack received suspended detention sentence. But there's more. In another disturbing incident in 2020, Jack met a girl on Facebook who tried to break things off after realizing just how possessive and controlling he was. But Jack lost it and reportedly put his hands around her throat before locking her in the house. This is the same girl that had contacted Ashley, asking her to talk some sense into him. Luckily, she managed to sneak out the window. But it gets worse. Back in 2018, Jack's own mother had to file a restraining order against him. After a fight over his Xbox, he pushed her down and tore a door off its hinges. The restraining order banned him from coming near her home, but he wouldn't stay away. He continued harassing her, damaging her car, and breaking windows in her home. Things got so bad that his mom had to call the police, and Jack ended up spending 8 weeks in a youth detention center. With a history like this, it was clear that Ashley was in serious danger. But she was so taken by Jack that she didn't see the truth until it was too late. Once the excitement of being together wore off, Ashley started to see some red flags. Jack didn't have a job. He lived off his mother, who lived nearby, and spent the day laying around the house doing nothing. Ashley couldn't get a job herself since she was only a tourist in the UK. She also noticed Jack had no friends. His whole world was basically social media and his game console. Then he began showing signs of being controlling, starting with getting upset about Ashley talking to one of the neighbors. This felt weird to her, especially since she was a social person who loved being around others. But it didn't stop there. Over Christmas, it became clear that Jack had serious problems. His mood swings were all over the place, and one day he even overdosed, forcing Ashley to call an ambulance. After he left the hospital, that's when things took a really dark turn. People around him noticed that his behavior had become different, especially when he was with Ashley. He would not allow her to go to church or talk to anyone, even her family. He had taken control of her social media, changed her passwords, deleted her posts, and only let her reach out to people in Canada when he approved. When she did talk to her family, she had to whisper so Jack wouldn't hear. Even from 4,500 miles away, her family could sense something was wrong. Ashley told them Jack had even hit her with a glass. Her family was understandably frantic, feeling powerless with her being so far away. Ashley knew things were bad and was making video diaries to document each incident and injury. But when her family urged her to come home, she insisted she was fine and refused to leave. Then on the morning of February 1st, 2022, a neighbor heard a scream coming from Ashley's apartment. Seconds later, Ashley showed up at their door crying, barefoot, and bleeding from a cut on her hand. She explained that Jack had attacked her and even threw their kitten against the wall, all because she had been looking at a picture of another woman. Talk about insecure. Ashley told the neighbor that she was terrified that Jack might kill her. But like so many others in abusive relationships, she didn't want to call the police because she didn't want Jack to get locked up. So all the neighbor could do was try to talk to Jack. As always, Jack acted remorseful and promised things would be fine. He even apologized to Ashley. Then after the neighbor left, Ashley made the fateful decision to go back to Jack. Tragically, it would be the last time anyone saw her alive. About an hour later, another neighbor brought a package for Jack, which was delivered to her by mistake. While he was busy talking to her at the front door, Ashley took advantage of the situation and called her family from Jack's phone. She told them everything that was going on and said she wanted to go home. Christy was shocked when she discovered how things were going in her daughter's relationship with Jack.
I said, enough. This is done. Ashley, you're coming home. Yes, Mom.
The family immediately booked Ashley a plane ticket for February 3rd. That was the earliest flight they could get due to the COVID tests. Christy warned Jack that she'd call the police if he hurt Ashley again, but that warning did nothing to stop what came next. As soon as Ashley hung up, Jack dropped the nice guy act and attacked her violently. At around 11:22 a.m., Ashley managed to grab Jack's phone long enough to send a desperate text to a few friends at the local Mormon church. "I need your help. It's an emergency, please." A couple of hours later, the friends got a message saying everything was fine, but it wasn't from Ashley. Jack had sent it, trying to throw them off. But the friends were still worried, so they decided to go to Ashley's place and check for themselves. They pounded on the door and called her name, but got no answer. Oddly enough, they could hear movement inside. That's when they knew something was wrong. And around 4 p.m., they called the police.
Essex Police, what's your emergency?
Hi, one of our friends has been texting us that she's been in a domestic, that like they've had some abuse in her home.
Okay, is this happening now, yeah?
Yeah.
What's your friend's name?
Ashley Wadsworth.
Her age?
She's 19. Yeah, she's
19 years of age.
She's Canadian.
Do you know Ashley's boyfriend's name?
Jack.
When the police showed up, they knocked and asked Jack to come out. They knew he was in there because they could see him through the window. But Jack wouldn't open up. Instead, he was on FaceTime with his sister, making a chilling confession. He had attacked Ashley with a knife. Now, unlike in the US, where police usually need a search warrant to enter, in England, they're allowed to go in without one if they think someone is in danger or a crime is happening.
Need to open the door, it's gonna come in.
Mate, open the door. You got 5 seconds, otherwise we're kicking it in.
So when Jack refused to open, they broke down the door and arrested him before searching around the apartment for Ashley. But tragically, it was too late. When they searched the bedroom, they found Ashley lying still on the bed, covered in red-soaked sheets.
When those officers went through that door, they would have immediately seen into the bedroom Jack Seppel on the bed with Ashley laying next to him. And there was a large quantity of in that bedroom. It was a truly gruesome scene.
Ashley had been jabbed over 90 times, and there were marks around her neck. Jack tried to brush it off with a quick apology saying, "I went psychotic, I'm sorry." He admitted to the gruesome murder and mentioned it happened a couple of hours ago. Paramedics rushed in and did everything they could to bring her back, but sadly, it was too late. Ashley was gone. But even more disturbing, around the time of the murder, Jack updated his Facebook profile with a photo of him and Ashley, captioning it, "Forever mine." Basically, he was saying no one else would ever have her because he had taken her life. How twisted is that?
Forensic officers remain at the scene in Tennyson Road today. Essex police are continuing to investigate the events leading up to Miss Wadsworth's death earlier this week.
Ashley's family woke up on the morning of February 1st to devastating news. Her dad, Ken Wadsworth, remembers the haunting moment he got the call. Ashley's sister, Haley, called him crying. "My sister's dead, Ashley's dead, Ashley's dead, Jack's murdered her." Ken's heart broke into a million pieces as he ended the call and immediately reached out to the police in Canada, explaining he feared his daughter might be dead in England. Shortly after, an officer from Essex Police called him and confirmed his worst fears. "Your heart breaks. I went to the doctor and said, I'm having all these chest pains, they don't go away. And he said that it was heartache. It's really tough. That's your baby girl, and she's gone." There aren't any words to describe that sorrow. Ken and his wife, Charmaine, flew to the UK and managed paperwork to bring Ashley's body home. "It was the worst moment of my life," he said.
I'm trusting you with her, and he said, "Yeah, I'll guard her with my life. I'll keep her safe, I promise." I said, "Okay."
Would you like to say anything that may harm the defence if you do not mention now something which you later rely on in court? Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
You could just sign in this box here.
In September 2022, Jack pled guilty to taking Ashley's life. The case against him was strong, with several witnesses detailing his toxic behavior and the events leading up to the tragic murder. Evidence also included voice notes Ashley had sent to friends, where you could hear Jack's disturbing threats to take her life. The judge described Jack's attack on Ashley as brutal and cowardly, and called out his history of violent, controlling behavior toward multiple women. On October 10th, 2022, Jack was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 23 years. Through his lawyers, he sent an apology note to Ashley's parents, but they doubted he truly felt remorse for what he'd done. This case is a chilling reminder of how dark online dating can turn. People aren't always who they claim to be behind the screen. You might think you know someone, trust them even, but they could be a hidden predator, waiting to make you their next victim. But what are your thoughts? Have you ever felt unsure about someone you met online? Let me know in the comments, and don't leave without checking out our next shocking video.